Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show, the Tesla Roadster version podcast. And I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. That looks like about what I felt like a Sunday afternoon. I was outside doing some work and come in and think, holy cow. And then I hear on the news the next day, we hit our first 100-degree.
We did indeed, and it was at 3:37 in the afternoon. I remember hearing that on the news toward the end of the day. But it's a dry heat, so we really didn't feel it, did we? I don't think.
No, not really. Not really. So,
So today's, it looks like we're going to get rid of some of our stuff here. We've got an extra microphone that's apparently creating feedback.
well, now we can see the Roadster a lot better.
Yeah, there we go. And so I thought this would be a good time to start talking about how to do some thermal or heat prevention for your Roadster. And first thing we should probably discuss is why, Well, when I got home last night, I have VIN number 5 in the garage. And, one of the early Roadsters actually made in Hethel, UK, and the original legacy battery pack usually charges to about 154 to 157 miles, which is really remarkable considering it's a 16-year-old pack, you know? And, but anyway, it had been maybe 4 or 5 days since I've charged it, and suddenly I see it's down to 85 miles. Instead of that 140, 130 that it would dip to. And I immediately remembered, oh my God, yeah, it's been hot in the garage. We've had 100 degrees. And what's happening is that little 12-volt DC brush motor pump that circulates all of the glycol through the cooling for the pack has been working overtime trying to keep the pack cool. So I'm going to show you some things that you can do to mitigate some of these problems that you're going to run into in the summer, especially if you have one of the early Roadsters. And let's get to by the way, we have a video out there. And if we can throw up that image here, it's called Overheating Video. It's out on our YouTube channel. It was done a couple of years ago. But we show you a number of things that you can do to help your Roadster stay cooler during the summer and avoid that dreaded, the battery's too hot and I can't charge air. And that one gets dangerous because if it starts that at a low state of charge, it may never recover in time for you to catch it before it bricks.
Right.
We've had that happen.
What image is it?
It is called Overheating Video. And those of you familiar with our YouTube channel, we've got over 1,000 videos out there now. I think 1,100 or something like that. And this is one of them. It's a good watch going into summer with your Roadster. But let me give you some of the some excerpts of what's in that video and what you can do. Let's see, you can cool the pack. Okay, first thing is cooling the pack. That video is not up yet. There we go. Okay, so that's one that I recommend you watch out on the YouTube channel. If you're having trouble finding it in amongst the 1,000 videos, there's a search field in YouTube. Just type in overheating, and that one should pop up for you. The second picture that we want to bring up here is called Lasco Fan, Jesse. And that's another way to keep the Roadster cool during summer. First thing is, when you're charging your Roadster, typically in your garage, and heaven forbid if you're doing that outside in direct sun, I mean, that's just going to exacerbate the problem because you've got a flat black ESS pack and a flat black PEM. And with the sun beating down on it, that's going to generate an enormous amount of heat and immediately send it into, limp mode or where it can't charge. This type of fan is available readily on, Amazon, at your local Walmart. These are good to pop on top of the PEM in the separation between the ESS pack and the PEM itself. And what you're doing is basically forcing air down through that channel by laying the outtake portion of the grills of that Lasco fan in that section. And you have 3 different speeds. What that will do is keep the battery pack cooler than normal, and you'll be able to charge, especially if you get that dreaded error, which I often get during summer. Battery's too hot, can't charge right now.
Right. For a lot of the people that we have worked with in Las Vegas and Los Angeles and other southern locales, they've come to us with questions about their car not charging and not totally understanding that that heat gets trapped up under that trunk area with no place to go. So
Swirls.
even if you're doing nothing more than opening the trunk, it's helping. But a fan like this could really make a big difference. Isn't it like 145 degrees or something like that, at which point the battery doesn't charge?
I don't know the exact temps, but we did do, when we did the video, we were doing FLIR camera type recordings to show where the hot spots are. And what we did find is that the 1.5 PEMs, which are wider, do tend to run hotter than the 2.0 fans or the 2.x fans.
Okay.
PEMs, I'm sorry, PEMs.
Okay.
And, that was probably one of the design characteristics that they were aiming for in redoing that power electronics module.
Sure, that makes sense. I remember last year we were having some of these conversations and we were talking about garages, at least here in the Phoenix area, might be within as little as 15 to 20 degrees difference between the ambient temperature in the garage and the temperature at which charging is basically cut off.
Yeah, exactly. And the final thing is, not final, but there's some more tips. Keep the garage door partially cracked at night while you're charging. It's not uncommon for these Roadsters to throw a lot of heat while they're trying to cool themselves or even turn on the AC, which of course has two components, the cooling portion and the heat that's getting extracted.
Right.
And that goes in your garage. So if you keep the door cracked a bit, you won't get as much heat buildup in that enclosed space, which will also help the car charge.
Yeah, I have to, even with non-Roadsters, we have our Volvo. In the summertime, that Volvo does more to heat up our garage than any of the vehicles I've ever owned before.
Sure. It's almost like running an ice car in that garage, but then you get the carbon monoxide along with it, which gets dangerous.
Yes. But so this is common to EVs, but it's especially with a sensitive car like the Roadster becomes an important thing.
We are still researching, by the way, using a reflective material, and we reported on that a few weeks ago on the Tesla Roadster show. We've got a 2.x PEM, and what we've done is lined the bottom of it with a reflective material, which is designed to, get rid of some of the heat. Remember, when you're driving in your Roadster in the summer, especially here in hot areas like Phoenix, you not only have the ambient temperature outside that you're contending with, but you have a lot of radiated heat that's coming from the asphalt down below.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Roadster design is such that the intake for the PEM cooling is very low in the car, and it's going to pick up some of that heat and pump that through your PEM, through the heat sinks. And so, that's part of the problem is it wasn't extraordinarily well designed to get rid of heat or to try to, mitigate the effects of heat.
Well, and haven't you even been invited from Tesla at one point to say, hey, those air scoops that are on the side that don't do anything, you go ahead, re-engineer it. Let's get the air coming in from the side.
Yeah, there are people that have played with that as well. It was actually Martin Eberhard that told us, you guys should really make those passive ducts on the side active in some way.
Yeah.
Because that was the original design goal, is to utilize those in some way. In a Ferrari, you have two different scoops just like that on either side of the car. One of them is for the oil cooler, and the other one is for the intake, for the air intake of the car. So those are active. In a Tesla Roadster, it was a leftover from the Lotus Elise days, and it does nothing other than look pretty. And some people even change them to carbon fiber to make them look even prettier.
Yeah, they look really cool.
Yeah. All right. So what else can you do to keep your Roadster cooler? Check your coolant level and use only propylene glycol. That is the green coolant, and you never want to mix that with the blue stuff because it will actually turn to jelly inside your cooling chambers. So propylene glycol, and make sure you check the level. It is a translucent can, I guess, on the side of on the passenger side of the ESS pack, the coolant bottle, basically. And you have little graduations there, and just make sure that you're within those two graduations. And ironically enough, sometimes the coolant level does get low. If it does get low, you're going to have another problem, which is that the coolant temperature inside your ESS pack, of course, goes up. You have what's called an APS unit, the auxiliary power source, which is a DC to DC converter that converts 400 volts to 12 volts. And by the way, we just found out in the previous podcast what the amperage is. That little guy puts out 120 amps on one DC bus and 60 on another.
That is a lot of current
It's a
coming
lot of
through
power.
that thing.
So you could essentially run every 12-volt device in your car and not have it affect that little motorcycle battery that actually is being charged by that.
Well, I was thinking afterwards, my house is only 200 amps.
But that's AC and your higher voltage. Remember Ohm's law?
It is.
Yeah, 12 volts, is low voltage, so higher amperage. I just want to insert that.
That is true. That is true. You're only talking about 12 volts, so it's not nearly as much current, but still, that's high amperage.
It still requires hefty wires, though.
It sure does.
Yeah. So, so that's another thing to look at is check the coolant level. And if you have a 1.5 version or series Roadster, which is VIN 500 and under, make sure that you get that 12-volt DC brush motor coolant pump replaced periodically.
Oh, yes, definitely.
We recommend every 5 to 7 years. It needs to be done at a service center, typically, unless you really want to dig into your passenger quarter panel and work on that plumbing thing yourself. It can be done, but the reason for that is a DC brush motor has wear items in it. And it's like pencil erasers on two sides of the commutator. They're carbon, and as the motor spins, it's continuously removing bits of carbon. And as it does so, you get less current going to the motor. It becomes less efficient. The CFM is affected. And it also has bearings that typically can get gummed up with age.
Now, do we sell a brushless motor that can go into the 1.5s, or do they still have to have a brush motor replacement?
We do not, but you know what? That's a good idea. If we could find a brushless 12-volt motor within the same package and GPM capacity, that would be a good retrofit. In the 2.0 Roadsters, they use a couple of magnetic impeller type pumps.
Right.
And those do not wear. What you have essentially is a closed loop system, and what spins the blades are magnets inside the impeller, and then you have a stepper motor signal that spins it.
Yeah, and there's no wear components like there is on those brush motors.
Exactly, yes. And there are two of them as well. So let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, we talked about the keeping the garage door open, getting a Lasco fan, and I'm sure we're going to get calls this season. We usually do during summer. My Roadster's overheating. What do? It won't charge, that type of thing.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments coming in already this morning, too. Mr. Comedy on TikTok has joined us. Thank you for joining us. He's asking, this is a car show? Dude, he says, tell us dealerships, to go down on the car prices. They're too expensive.
Well, ICE cars have a whole lot more components in them than EVs. And we're getting close to that tipping point where it's going to be less expensive to buy an EV than to buy an ICE car. So that is the future. It may not be happening instantly right now, but in China, they actually do have cars that are less expensive than ICE cars, EVs that are less expensive.
Oh, yes. Well, and we had Jerry Kroll on in our last podcast, and that Electromechanica Solo, he's going to be coming out with the Solo GT this next year, and that is going to be priced cheaper than almost all ICE cars as well.
Yeah, what do you say, 18.8 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, between $18,000 and $20,000.
Jerry also wrote a book, Beyond Elon, The Next Great EV and Living Past 200. Jerry Kroll is the founder and current owner of Electromechanica Solo. And if you weren't watching in the last podcast, there is a series of Solo cars, about 1,400 of them or so, the G3s, that are having loss of power symptoms while driving. And they've recalled them. There are a bunch sitting out here in East Mesa. I was there yesterday, and we're getting a couple of those cars here to do reverse engineering and find a way to get a more robust 12-volt support system, because that's where we're thinking the problem lies, is that the 12-volt battery just can't keep up with the demands on the 12-volt system.
Yeah, we think that's a good chance.
So we're starting to get more people that are coming to Phoenix to test drive and review Roadsters for sale. It makes perfect sense, because if, when you go to your traditional dealerships to get a nice car, oftentimes they'll hand you the keys, and it's an exchange process. You give them your license, they give you the keys, and you go out and you test drive a car. Well, it occurred to us that with Tesla Roadsters, the same process may help sell cars.
Sure.
And it apparently has, because we had someone come out last week, test drove one of our longstanding customers' Roadsters, which was for sale, and they're closing escrow right now, I believe.
That's right. They're in the process of using our escrow service, and the title is on its way to us. The funds will be on their way to us shortly, and we'll just help facilitate the transfer.
And this customer is getting a great deal. I mean, we all know that currently Roadster prices are depressed. There's a glut in the market. There are way too many for sale, and it is definitely a buyer's market. But this particular car has had a lot of the deferred maintenance resolved. Even before it got to us, it had an upgraded performance brake package put in, for example. So this particular customer is basically getting a Roadster that needs nothing. It's going to be available to drive, and at some point in time, the main battery will have to be replaced, but that certainly isn't imminent at this point.
That may be several years before it has to be replaced at this point.
Now, the advantage to someone coming here to test drive a Roadster is we have way more than one. We've got a bunch for sale. And different colors, different styles. And of course, the potential buyers always bring a host of questions. And our staff is highly trained on working on Roadsters. So there's an enormous amount of Roadster knowledge. We are also able to show them the upgrades that are available, actually show them the product. It's not just a abstract on a piece of paper with a price attached. They're able to see, how does the stock shock compare to this new performance shock that you're putting on the cars? Why is the brake better and different? And so there's an enormous amount of support available like that. And finally, we're a car dealer. So if your car is here and it's being serviced, and sometimes it takes more than a few months to get the car properly repaired and back to get it back on the road. Sometimes insurance lapses, the tags lapse. Well, as a car dealer, we put our dealer plates on these cars. Now they're fully insured again, and they're available to drive on the roads here, so that you can test drive. So anyway, we invite you to check out the Roadster matchmaking site and see how many cars are here local. We changed the picture on them so that there's an icon on the picture now that shows cars that are physically here. And if you're serious about buying a Roadster, it may be worth the plane ticket to come to Phoenix and check out the Roadsters and test drive them. The Roadster matchmaking site currently has 44 Roadsters for sale, and then 11 in the collector's section. So we've got 55 Roadsters here that are available for sale. Most of them are at the owner's locations, but there's a fair share that are here in our service center. And as usual, there are more planned. We're in process of getting ready to put more listings out there. And the Roadster matchmaking site is completely free. The escrow service is completely free.
Completely free, yep.
The tech support is completely free. There are no charges, fundamentally, is what we're trying to say here, unlike an auction where the seller and buyer ends up paying a premium to the auction house.
Yeah, or even a consignment where the seller ends up coming in and saying, okay, I want you to help me sell it, but then as the dealer, we come in and say, well, yeah, but we're going to take 10% of whatever you sell it for.
Right. So, yeah, completely free. And if you're listing your Roadster with us, it's a gentle sale. In other words, the listing is live until it sells. There is no 7-day pressure to get the car in the hands of a new owner, which oftentimes I think may be responsible for the low prices because there aren't as many buyers out there currently. as there
Right.
used to be. So what we ask is that you take detailed pictures of the car. And, going out with your cell phone at dusk isn't quite what we're looking for. What the potential buyers are looking for is they want different angles on the car. And the best time to do it is as the sun is just coming up or the sun is just setting, you've got low light, or on a cloudy day even, because you don't have the harsh shadows that way. And then walk around the car. You can't ever take too many pictures.
Right.
If you have too many, we'll tell you, and we'll weed through the best ones and take those. But the potential buyers want to see all around the car. They want to see any potential, or they want to see any damage on the car. Even the scratch by the the front bumper or whatever. Those are important. Any curb rash, which then means you have to take pictures of all four wheels, and then interior shots. Definitely take pictures of the seats, the instrumentation, and of course, it goes without saying, clean and detail your car before you take the pictures.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than a used diaper on the floor when you're taking a picture of the passenger compartment. Not the right image. And then finally, take pictures of the mileage and take pictures of the standard mode charge level. Don't do range charges. We don't recommend that. And finally, the calculated amp hour capacity. And if you're unsure how to pull your CAC from the car, we have it in our submission form on our website. So when you click on I want to list my car, it will walk you through how to do the CAC pull down, or the newsletter section on our website, where there's a newsletter that says how to calculate or how to extract your CAC on the car.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the correct way to take pictures of your car, and then the chances for it selling improve tremendously. And then finally, we ask for a backstory. We don't want to do the bring a trailer thing where it's always the same pitch, it's always the same data, it's always the same information. It's just canned, right? Tell us why you bought the car, how long you've owned it, first or second owner, what kind of experiences you've had with it, and critical, why are you selling it? People would like to know that. So again, if it's too much story, I don't think we've ever had that happen, but we'll certainly help you trim it.
I don't think we've ever had that happen either.
Right.
The stories are so compelling and interesting, and they add so much to the history and the value of that individual roadster, and collectively to the history of roadsters that we have sold in the past too.
Right. All right. We've got Andy Nicol, who is doing great work in the UK. We got another log file from him. He said, this is a log file from what I hope is a soft bricked roadster. It turns out that this particular roadster may have been the last right-hand drive roadster made, and it's located in Leighton Buzzard, UK. But it turns out that he was successful in doing a level 1 recovery, but he still wanted us to go through the log file and see if there's anything else that we can pull out. At this point, I need to mention something. Not everyone has free log file analysis, apparently. Ours is completely free. It's free to the community, always has been. We will never charge you for that. And our engineers spend a lot of time actually pulling those down. We're actually using AI as well now to pull that down to get additional information if necessary.
Yes.
So feel free to send us your .tar file, which is the format that the Roadster spits out for the log file. And if you want to see some of Andy's cars here, Jesse, I've got UK Cars -1. That's probably the best one to show some of Andy's collection. There are a number of great roadster service shops around the world, and it turns out Andy is evolving into one of the ones in the UK, along with Neil Wise, who is doing great work there as well. But this is Andy's collection, and I think that one on the end is a violet colored roadster. You're gonna have to help us here, and if you're watching, Andy, or you might be asleep, chime in and tell us what these 3 roadsters are. Looks like we've got some questions. MD ATIP says FCXT.
Not sure what FCXT would be.
All right, so it's not just me. All right,
It's
well,
not just
give us
you.
more information.
And then Highlander has joined us again here. He was on the earlier podcast and asked us a question, and he's just reminded us that we didn't answer his last question. You didn't get a chance to ask the question about your 40th anniversary party.
Yes.
When is it, and is there anyone from the public invited?
You know, it's probably because I don't know when it is. Do they have a date yet? Do you know?
I believe they have May 16th of 2024 as the date. So that's roughly 3 weeks from now.
Okay, and that's just before I leave for the Tesla takeover in Flachau, Austria.
That's right, and I believe that's on a Thursday. They had talked about having it on the Friday, and it just didn't work out quite right. So I believe it's May 16th. As far as I know, anyone who would want to come is invited to come.
Totally, yes. And, you know, we have neighbors here, too, that may be joining this, and we have kind of a strong community here. So, yes, and we feel that our audience on these channels is an extension of our local community as well. So,
by all means. So, yes, the general public is definitely invited.
Yep. All right.
So, Highlander does have a follow-up comment for us as well. He says that Sandy Monroe has announced on May 4th that he's having a free open house. For him, it's only about an hour away from where Highlander's at. I believe that's Toledo. So, you know, I'm going to be there.
Say hi to Sandy for us.
Please do.
I have the event info, just so everybody knows. That is not a free event. That's the one I was telling you a few weeks ago, Pete. They're doing $25 to get in. Unless you're under 14, then it's free.
Okay.
But it's $25 general admission and $250 if you want an insider's look, like a tour, exclusive tour with Sandy Monroe meet and greet.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems reasonable, at least the $25 version, and kids under 14 free. So, yeah, it looks like an event well worth attending. I try to get Sandy to come to Austria with me because he owes me a beer.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
He does. He does.
But, yeah, he was just complaining about how he and his wife had taken a vacation. And he said, we're just not vacation people. And I think I know where he's coming from, you know. After that third week or so, and, you know, you don't want to go to Europe and spend 1 week. I mean, just jet lag alone puts you down for at least 4 days. You know? Yeah, to and fro.
Yeah.
But I get bored. I mean, I've got a lot going on here. I enjoy what I do. So I know how Sandy feels.
I have to agree with you there.
All right, we got another picture to throw up here, and this one is, Jesse, it is called, well, I've got it here, I think.
I think I've seen that one.
It's the one with Mike in the car. Huh? No? Okay. Well, yeah, there it is. It's new drivetrain. Got so many radiant red Roadster pictures today. They all kind of blur and run together. You know, that was the most popular color in the Roadsters.
I'm not surprised.
Radiant red, yeah. Here we have one of our master mechanics, Mike, who is doing a bit of body work on this car. This is a radiant red Roadster that had been involved in a rear-end collision twice within a year. The first one was a bit more manageable, the repairs. We repaired the rear bumper and I think part of the quarter panel, but this one was so bad that it actually pushed a bunch of stuff up all the way into the hardtop, which was also damaged.
Oh, no.
Yep, and what Mike is doing here is he's prepping the car for repairing the quarters from the inside. You know, the quarter panels on a Roadster are epoxy to the side of the frame.
Right.
And it's not the kind of epoxy where you just get a solvent and say, oh, okay, now it's loose, we can take them off and, you know, work on them on the bench. It's almost a destructive process. So what he's doing here is prepping the car, and he's really getting into his work here. The thing that I question is, did he climb over, or did they lower the car while he was sitting on the ground? Don't know that.
That is, man, that's a lot of work in a tight space. He is sitting almost exactly where the ESS pack would normally be.
Yeah, and that had to be pulled, of course, along with the PEM. Now, Jesse, if you go to pictures A, B, and C, we'll see what this car actually ended up looking like after the accident. And by the way, for those of you curious about how we got that sun, artificial intelligence. This is Doll E. And what we asked for was a 2008 Tesla Roadster in Phoenix, Arizona during the middle of summer. And it aptly created a hot sun just hovering above the car.
And that sun is about what it feels like right
Yeah.
now out there.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah, you can see that the rear end got smacked pretty hard. Now, if we go over to B, you'll see what happened to the side and the quarter panel, and we had this type of damage on both sides actually. So the quarter panels got compromised and crushed. The rear deck also sustained some damage, and it actually pushed the rear deck up underneath the hardtop.
So whoever hit this car must have hit it fairly high up, because there's
likely.
very little damage on the bumper itself.
Yeah. And then let's see if there's another image that goes with that. Yeah, if we go to C, yeah, I think C is the next one.
Yeah, and then there is an image D as well.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, you can see how they got pushed up under. Now, the work that's starting to take place, let's go to image 0453. And you can see how the repair is beginning to progress and take shape. I don't have any of the ongoing images at this point where they've already got the filler primer on it, but it's looking like this car is not going to be totaled, which, by the way, is a whole nother issue. For those of you that have damage on your Roadster, it's going to be a negotiating process with the insurance companies in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quick to total these cars because they realize these parts aren't available. You're not going to go down to the Lotus dealer and buy a quarter panel or Tesla. So you have to get pretty creative in order to repair bodies on these cars. And here you can see some of the extent of what needed to be done just to get this passenger quarter back in shape. All right. I think that's it for the body damage portion. I have an update for you regarding the Tesla Roadster NACS conversion, and where a lot of people are excited about this. I think 40 of them, and they keep on increasing every week.
Oh, that's another 10 this last week then.
Yes, yeah. And I'm going to be meeting with one of the service center managers in Munich, Germany next month, and we're going to be talking about this as well. So it looks like Tesla, including Tesla Corporate, if it's properly done and orchestrated, may be interested in this conversion, something that we can then provide to the service centers and have them insert the pigtails.
Oh, very nice.
Now, the reason that's important is there are other modifications for the Tesla Roadster that have been done over the years, and one of them was the JDMO conversion, which allows fast DC charging. Now the Roadster can actually go to a supercharger or any destination charger or your home or wherever. The problem had been that because this was not a Tesla-sanctioned conversion, the service centers were not allowed to work on that Roadster for safety reasons.
Totally makes sense.
And if it had this modification and there was a battery warranty at the time, the 3.0 warranties, they wouldn't honor the warranty. The warranty is voided with this kind of a modification. So currently, there are no more warranties on the Roadster itself, drivetrain warranties, except for if you have a 3.0 pack conversion that was done, and then you get a 2-year warranty or a 24-month warranty. So what we're doing is keeping Tesla updated all along the way to see if they will agree that this kind of a NACS conversion is sanctioned and authorized, which now allows not only the service centers to service your car, or the service centers to install this option in your car.
Right. And it's not a DC fast charge conversion. It simply would allow you to go to any NACS-enabled destination charger, level 1 or level 2, and do your charging there without having to have the CAN Junior or CAN Senior.
Correct. And I just got an email this morning from Marco Nolte in Germany, who is also very interested in this NACS conversion and the Type 2 conversion for the Roadster. He has, however, been working on a fast DC charge, which, if it's combined with the NACS conversion again, then creates a Roadster that looks just like the later model Teslas, and that you go to superchargers or to destination chargers or your home.
That would be remarkable.
If we can get Tesla, yes, to agree that this is a conversion that is sanctioned.
Right.
All right. someone saying the pretty crazy background screen? Oh,
Yeah,
it was Highlander. Okay.
Highlander was saying that too.
Yeah, you can thank Pete for that one, not me. He's saying I did it.
Well, AI, I'm not going to take credit for it. So VIN 507, if you remember, is Rafael de Mestre's Twilight Blue Roadster. Got a picture here, and it's the first one is called Rafael. In a nutshell, VIN 507 traveled the world in 2012 and proved that a roadster could actually do so, go to various countries and find electricity as he was traveling across some pretty unusual countries, which in 2012 didn't have any EVs.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, Ukraine was, I think, one of them.
Yeah.
And the car got bricked. The short story is it went to a museum in Munich. People loved it for a year. Hundreds of thousands of visitors came to see it. They asked for a 6-month extension. The people that were watching the car in the next 6 months didn't charge it, and it got bricked. So he ended up sending us the car on a clipper ship, a sailboat, basically, unmotorized. And the reason we know that is they got stuck around Cuba, and they had to run circles around Cuba in order to have the winds become favorable so they could go to Miami to the port.
Right, because they had to sit on the leeward side of Cuba. I remember that.
Right. But here's a picture of Rafael showing his Twilight Blue VIN 507 Roadster in the cargo hold of a sailboat. Initially, when he asked about taking a car, they said, "We don't have enough room." He said, "Well, take a look at the size of this car," and they were convinced they could do it. So they winched this thing or craned it down into the cargo hold and then picked up, I think, coffee on the way back.
Yeah, they were planning on sailing across empty, and so they were thrilled to have cargo to be able to take both directions.
Right. From there, the car got transported, sadly enough, by diesel transport because the Tesla Semi wasn't out yet at that point. And it came to our service center. We did a number of upgrades. We weatherproofed the car. We sent the car over to Tempe Tesla Service Center to have the battery replaced. And then from there, the car went up to Seattle for a bit more work and then eventually ended up going across the Pacific Ocean and ended up, I've got a map here, Jesse. It's Rafael's journey, and we can see the most recent trajectory, which eventually ended up being in Germany. Now, these the names of these cities and countries, by the way, are in German, so if they look a bit odd to you, that's the reason. But we're looking at Hungary, which is Ungarn, and Slovakia, Czechoslovakia, obviously, and Deutschland, if it's there, would of course be Germany. Croatia is there. Schweiz is Switzerland. And eventually he ended up outside of Düsseldorf at a supercharger location. It was called Hilden is the name of the town there. And from here, apparently, he's going to Barcelona and going to continue. His note here says, "I will arrive tomorrow coming from Germany, USA, China, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and attached is my planned route." He says that he crossed Turkey and a third of the way around the world. This is definitely worth watching, guys, because there's a website called
80edays.com. And 80edays.com.
Yep. One more picture, Jesse, and this shows how challenging it is to get power. It's Rafael's Journey -2. His motto is, wherever you see lights, there's electricity.
Yep.
And he's been known to tap into panels and into, outside NEMA 1 enclosures like this in order to get the power necessary to charge his car. Restaurants, he says, are a great way to have power available because they have, heating elements and dishwashers and large current carrying type devices, hot water heaters, that type of thing.
And he said that they're typically closed overnight when he would need to charge, and so it's no additional load on them.
Yep, exactly. So those of you interested in following his travels, that is the website. It's 80 Days, all one word. 80, by the way, and then eDays. Okay. Have another image here. one of our engineers, and this is BOT-1, Jesse, we have a young intern, and we have interns from time to time. One of them actually was one of our customers' sons, Arthur, who is now in a college up in, I think, UCLA,
Okay.
doing extremely well. And these interns come and they learn the EV trade. We have one currently from, he's from ASU, Nick to the far right there. And he's also a robotics expert. Loves, of course, engineering. He's the guy that is rebuilding all of your MC120 yellow charge cables as you send them to us. And by the way, that's still brisk business. We are converting and upgrading your Tesla Roadster yellow charge cables to 25-foot 10-gauge cords, getting rid of the GFI plug and rebuilding the main plug that goes into the Roadster, all for around $245, I think.
Yeah, great price and great product.
Yeah, and Nick is the guy that's doing that type of work. He also built this BattleBot, and this thing was pretty impressive. He's currently in San Jose, actually. And if we can go, Jesse, to image 0332. Or make that 0334. That might be a better one. Yeah. This little BattleBot is actually capable of flipping other bots. It has on the front of it a steel cylinder that weighs 75 pounds of hardened steel with 3 teeth on it. And it begins to spin. And as it spins, with joysticks, he's able to maneuver it into other BattleBots, you know, the kind with hammers on them.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Flamethrowers and, you know, all that. This thing is lightning fast. It's extraordinarily nimble. And if that steel drum with the 3 teeth on it, which, by the way, spins at 11,000 RPM, as he was winding this up, I kept thinking he's going to stop. He's going to stop because it started to hum.
Yeah.
And it's called the death hum. This thing got up to 11,000 RPMs, and we were all backing away.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that. I'm a big BattleBots fan.
You are?
I've watched every season on TV, and that drum, it's going to spin in an upwards, or you would think of it as a backwards motion. And I've seen other spinners like that. They will throw another 250-pound robot 15 feet in the air, and I've watched them break the lights in the battle box, is what they call it, and those lights are 16 feet up, so it's about the size of the place where our fluorescent lights are right there.
And he says occasionally this thing will chunk the concrete, so we took him out of our shop area there because we've got a nice floor. By the way, there is a video out there, Aaron, that you did, is there not? Tell us about that, where they can see it.
Yeah, so we should have one going up soon on YouTube. We just have some other ones in the queue right now, so it's just getting up to those. I can see if I can post one on Instagram today, bump one up.
Great.
Yeah,
That'd
and
be
I think
great.
there might be one on TikTok already. If not, that's coming down the road as well too.
Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, he's up there, and we hope he's doing well. And you know, we really appreciate the schools or even family members referring the young guys that really want to you know, get involved in EV repair. It's a great learning experience. I know I'm a recipient of that. I worked in a radio shop in high school, and that's really what launched my high-tech career all my life.
Well, and so much of what he's doing with that bot is directly translatable to what we do on the cars.
Exactly.
It
yes.
is the same work, it's just a different piece of hardware.
He has he has lithium polymer batteries in this, and of course a lot of engineering is involved in this, and the electronics. And he's a whiz at soldering. That's why I say he does the MC120 cables. All right, have another image here. It's image number H, Jesse. We have a lineup of cars that are ready to go home, basically, after they're repaired. And what we started to do was we put socks on them rather than let them get dusty. And here you can see, I think, 3 of them that have the socks on that are ready for departure within the next few days as the transporters show up. So this is what keeps the car detailed. And of course, we do a final detail before it leaves. But yeah, there you have it.
Well, that's a great idea. It's that way you can wash it, detail it, keep it together. Because sometimes it takes a couple of weeks before it can get on the transport. Do those socks stay on the car while they're on transport, or do they pull them off?
Yeah, we take them off, and it depends, of course. If it's enclosed transport, open, it would just blow off because this is fairly thin poly
True.
material.
Very true.
All right, got another image here. It's called Visium-0. And I wanted to show you guys, we're not a source for Visium tops, by the way. It's a company in Italy that makes those, and typically people buy them off eBay. We don't stock them. If there's enough demand, we probably will start. But I wanted to show you a Roadster that has the Visium top. And what you see here is it's perfectly level with the carbon fiber roll bar cover in the back and the front portion. And when you get near the car, which is Visium-1, the next picture, you'll see that it is a nice, glossy, shiny surface that is level with that roll bar. And then from the inside, let's look at Visium 2, and you can see how nice a fit that is. You can actually see through it, but it doesn't let the sunlight through, the harsh sunlight. And in Phoenix, Arizona, that may be important,
Oh, yeah.
So it's like sunglasses. You can see out, but no one can see in, and the sun is certainly trapped or isn't harsh. It's sleek, it's low profile, and it gives you more interior headroom. Most people don't consider that, the tall guys. I don't have the problem, but,
Sure, but I would.
yeah, the tall guys that are pushing, toward that hard top. This gives you more headroom and gently illuminates the interior. Again, available from Italy. There are very specific cleaning instructions with this. You definitely don't want to use anything abrasive or Brillo pads or anything like that.
Sure.
And then there's certain type of chemicals that are to be avoided as well, but all of that will be described in the description once you get one if you buy one. All right. Now, getting back to roadsters, brick roadsters. We can't overemphasize enough how important it is to attend to roadsters immediately when they get bricked. The time is not on your side. When a roadster gets bricked, essentially it reaches a state of charge low enough to where it won't accept the charge anymore from the charge port door, but the battery continues to be drained. And remember, at this point, you're not only so low that you can't charge anymore, and the VMS is saying, nope, we're not going to try this. You're beyond a margin of safety. But things like pumps and 12-volt systems continue to drain the battery. And when you get below 2 volts at the brick level, it then starts a destructive chemical process in the cells. And if it's a short period of time, it may just be one cell, one resistive cell. If it's a extended period of time, all 69 cells in that brick will eventually go that path. And now there is no fix because Tesla does not sell sheets.
Right.
The only place to get sheets are from donor cars, and donor cars are in very short supply. We have some in the battery bunker. They're not inexpensive. But you want to avoid getting your car hard bricked. By the way, there's a new term now, a proposed term, for a bricked roadster. We were using brick for years. Skateboard is the new proposed term. And we'll see if that takes off.
Now, why would they call it skateboard?
Well, I don't know. I'm not the originator of that term, but I guess because it won't move on its own power.
Okay.
And you have to put dollies underneath it, and then you're basically skating. Yeah, could be any number of things.
Could be.
By the way, it was Chad Maglicki that came up with that term. So if you're watching, Chad,
okay.
tell us where you came up with that, or did you just make it up spur of the moment? We'd love to hear from you. So every week these days, we get a report from someone that their roadster is ailing, won't charge, losing mileage. It's either a resistive cell, or it's a brick roadster that's already not able to, be charged again. What we ask you to do then is pull a log file and then pull that service plug. Now, here's a scenario that just happened a couple of weeks ago, and the car arrived Friday last week. The owner was on vacation. Got a notification from people watching the car that it won't charge. Got back, but it took a couple of weeks to get back from vacation. They pulled a log file, confirmed that it is a soft brick. It is recoverable. Now, we don't want you to ship your car to us if we're not going to be able to recover it. And if it's hard brick, meaning 6 months to a year or more of no charge, and the service plug was left in, it's not going to be a recovery candidate for us.
Right.
So your only option then becomes waiting for a Tesla Roadster replacement pack from Tesla. So we have a newsletter that tells you what to do when your Roadster gets bricked. And it's a combination of things. Pull the log file, put it in tow mode, pull the service plug, and then be prepared for transport. This particular car came in Friday morning last week. Most companies go home for the weekend. Well, here we have staff. I was here both Saturday and Sunday. I was watching the car. It came up by Sunday morning to 330 volts DC, which is the territory at which you can start a charge again.
Yes.
Indicating that we most likely have a successful level 1 recovery. So Sunday morning, I was out there pulling the B&B boards, putting the service plug back in. And by the way, I'm not good with service plugs. I think our customers have the same problem.
Yeah.
So in addition to putting this car back together, I actually built a service plug pulling tool. And I'll probably bring that to one of these shows here.
Now, but you're talking about putting a service plug in. So do you have a service plug pushing tool?
No, that I still have to use my hand.
Okay.
And then you use a rod to push it in the rest of the way, because my hands or my arm just isn't long enough
Sure.
you know,
Okay.
to do that.
Okay.
And it's painful as heck because you have to contort and get in between the gas struts and some
Right.
support for the roll bar. Horrible design, Tesla. You could have done better. I'm scolding you right now, all right? So anyway, Sunday, finally got everything put back together, and guess what? It took the charge. And now you get that yellow amber glow, and you know you're charging. By the time I left, it was still 0 miles range. Monday morning, I come in, it was at 68 miles, I think. And this morning, when I looked at it, we were up to 159 miles.
Oh, fantastic.
So we've got another successful Roadster put back on the road. The only anomaly with this one is we did a bleed test, which is checking all of the sheets to see what the 99 bricks are reporting regarding the connection from the bonding plates to the B&B card. And consistently, we showed on sheet 11 2 bricks that had a bleed test error.
Now, could those bleed test errors have possibly contributed to the problems with the charging?
Yes. That could have been the reason that the car would not charge at one point.
Sure.
So our recommendation there is, unfortunately, it now requires a battery pull. You have to take the sheet out. You have to replace the pop rivets on those bricks. And it looks like that's the direction it's going to go. But we'll certainly leave that up to the customer. There are bleed test errors that where they continue to drive the car, but eventually it fails because it doesn't get better. What's happening is you have a pop rivet in between a sandwich, all right? This is the bonding plate. And the pop rivet at one point was popped, and you can't control the clamping force on that metal. Plus, you get corrosion in between the surfaces as it ages.
Right.
And as that happens, it creates impedance problems or resistance in that connection. And that's what the software is sensing when it reports a bleed test error. It's outside of a certain threshold of what it's expecting in terms of conductivity to that bonding plate. And if it gets bad enough, it won't charge. It won't, in fact, the car won't drive at some point.
Right. It will eventually break the battery. Hey, we have a question here from or comment from Greg D about the Visium, and his response was no.
Oh, he says the Visium lets a lot of heat in summer, winter only here in Northern California.
You know, and Greg, I have a recommendation. Like you've mentioned and pointed out, I'm a fairly tall guy, and the Tesla that I drive has a sunroof, and I did not care for the Teslas with the sunroof as much as the ones that have the hard top, Model S,
Right.
because of the amount of heat here in Phoenix that comes through that sunroof in the summer, my head would get hot enough that I would have to slouch in order to have it not hurt.
Really? Okay.
Really. We went to a ceramic tint company that was just around the corner, and they put a heat reflecting ceramic tint onto
Oh.
the sunroof.
Okay.
Now, if Visium is similar to glass, which it appears to be, that same type of thing could happen. I was absolutely stunned at how much heat that that tint reflects back up through that glass and does not let into the car. The ceramic tint supposedly is between 95 and 99%, depending on the level that you get. And it can be 110 outside, and I'll put my hand up there. I can actually hold my hand up against that glass, and I don't feel it on my head at all.
Really?
You
Okay.
might be able to do something like a ceramic tint on the Visium, and you cannot tell that there's a tint on it.
Well, thanks for chiming in, Greg. It sounds like you have one, and you get a lot of heat. So yeah, that might be a solution.
That might be a
lining
suggestion
it.
for you. So
Sure.
Highlander also has a question for us. He said, what's the update on the storage facility?
Oh, the city of Phoenix is going to turn on electricity as soon as you make the call
That's right.
from the general contractor. Yes.
We got the blue tag. We're pretty excited about that one.
Yeah. My God, it's been 2.5 years.
It's been a long time
Yeah.
getting.
So once we have power, of course, things begin to change. We can then begin to work at night. We've got a tile guy that's still putting in tile in the front office area, and he's using battery-assisted lights right now. But so that'll change some things. And we've got some welding we need to do over there. We've got some pressure washing, so all of that will improve.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's in process, and it's looking beautiful. We'll have some pictures for you guys as we start taking Roadsters over there soon.
And then we have one more question from TikTok. Tim on TikTok asks, do you know if you need Toolbox Proxy to access a Model S Plaid, or does Chrome only work?
You know, the engineers over at GMC are the only ones that can answer that.
I'm not sure on that answer
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, we'll, Victor, if you're watching, Victor usually watches our podcasts. If you jot that down, and we'll get back to Tim. Tim, if you give us your email address, ev@gruber.com, we'll get back to you on that. All right. So we talked about heat issues with the Roadster, how you can mitigate some of the heat. Those Lasco fans are a good solution. Worked with VIN number 5 now for years. I want to give a plug to the Tesla takeover in Europe. It's the first one in Europe. They've had 3 of them in the United States. And it'll be next month, right around this time, in Flachau, Austria, which is outside of Salzburg. They expect 1,000 cars, a lot of keynote speakers. I will be there, and it will be quite an event, it looks like. And of course, it's a beautiful area of the world, right in the Alps there.
It should be a lot of fun. We are planning on having a podcast in the morning that Saturday, stateside, while you're there in the evening. So we'll try to have you on via Zoom call. That will be interesting.
It will be live too, yes.
Yes, that will be a lot of fun.
Image number 2, Jesse, that's one of the last ones, I think. And we're coming to the close of a rodent discouraging process, I guess the best way to call it. This particular customer ended up with rodent damage throughout the car. And what you'll see as soon as a picture comes up is underneath the dash, right by the one of the modules there, you'll see a nest there. And what we ended up doing was using a combination of spray and electronic devices, 3 of them. They were fairly inexpensive, so we put one in the front, mid, and in the rear of the car, just underneath the PEM.
You're talking
actually.
about the one that's called Rodent?
It is called, let's see, I go back up to the top.
Yes, that's the one.
Yep, that's the one. There we go. Okay. And yeah, you can see that nest. Now, they didn't only nest. The frayed material that you see there is oftentimes seatbelt material that they've chewed up to create a nice soft nest for their offspring, or other parts like carpet that gets chewed up.
Okay.
And Then, of course, they also eat the insulation off wires. And they may not stop there. The insulation was tasty. Well, let's see how the copper tastes. And next thing you know, you've got a broken connection. And unfortunately, they don't really pick the places they do this to keep it accessible for repairs. Oftentimes, these are in the running board where you can't get into unless you pull the whole wiring harness out.
Right.
So the damage can get costly and pretty severe. What we ended up doing for this customer, and we'll have a fuller report in one of the other Roadster podcasts later than in the month, there are devices that actually emit high-frequency sounds that make these rodents stay away. Ultrasonic, I'm not sure what kind
I
of
think
frequency.
that's what they are, some sort of ultrasonic frequency up above 20,000 hertz.
Mhm. So we'll have a fuller report, but in the meantime, there are ways that you can prevent this type of damage. Get yourself a barn cat. That's probably the best one.
Absolutely.
Instead of chasing that feral cat away in your neighborhood, let him hang out for a while. If you see a coyote, be a little friendlier, you know? And try not to leave your car outside. The Roadsters are not waterproof, and they don't like sitting outside. And the thermal expansion and thermal differences can cause problems. As we found out with the Chinese Roadsters, remember, those were baking and freezing in sea containers for 13 years. And in addition to the rodent problem and insect problems, the temperature extremes just killed the PPF that was on those cars.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? I think we may be coming to the end of a successful podcast here. You can pop up one more picture there, Jesse. It's called Chinese Roadster Bath. And this is one of my favorite pictures. I had no idea that I was being photographed. And when the Chinese Roadsters came in, I would leave my office because it was a pretty exciting
Of course.
time period, and pitch in and help. And here we were knocking some of the debris and the leftover droppings off of the Roadster by pressure washing the outside. And if you could back away on that picture, you can see the artistic skill of one of our mechanics, Mike Manning, who just has a knack for the right image at the right time. If you can't back up, it's fine too. But what he did there was he created basically a black and white image with the only thing showing is the orange Roadster. There we go.
Wow.
It's stunning, I think.
Wow. For Mike, I expect it
Yeah.
because he is such an artist in that area. But for anybody else, and that's just because he is so good. That's a really stunning picture.
He has the eye, which any great photographer just innately, comes along with the territory. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. As always, these Roadster podcasts are every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And stay tuned. We'll be reporting more on the Solo project, which is not a Tesla Roadster. It is an Electromechanica Solo that appears to have an engineering problem. It's not the first time we've seen engineering problems working on Roadsters, but this particular one may just put a few hundred cars back on the road.
That is what we do with Gruber Motors too. Keeping these cars on the road is exactly in line with our mission. And it's going to be called, Solo Automotive Inc. from now on too.
Yes. We had the founder and the current owner in our podcast, in an earlier podcast. If you're interested, look on our YouTube channel. The Solo car, in a nutshell, before we close, is a three-wheeler. And the owner of the company believes that this is the future of transportation. Why drive a sedan where you can sit 5 people and you're the only guy in the car to work every morning?
Yeah.
Or in the case of one of our social media guys here, whose name I won't mention, driving a giant diesel pickup truck with 8,000 pounds for a guy that weighs, maybe 200, right? But, he's going to comment. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Got nothing to say.
Yeah,
You can't
no.
refute that.
I
right?
kind of want to ride in one of those.
But,
Yeah.
I'm getting my head around the concept. He's like most visionaries, they're inspiring. And the more you listen, the more you come around to their viewpoint.
Yeah.
And talking to Jerry Kroll, who, by the way, knows Martin Eberhard. He used to hang out with him in Woodside at, what was the name of the restaurant? Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks.
But, it's contagious. the enthusiasm, and the notion that why do we need all these extra seats in a vehicle or even 4 wheels? He says a tripod is one of the most stable devices. That's why they use them for cameras. And but anyway, there's more to come on that. We're starting to dive into the technology of the G3 solo vehicles, trying to figure out why they lose power. And if we solve that, again, a whole bunch of cars are going to go back on the road. So again, thanks for joining us.
Take care, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.